So, welcome to the Broker Collective podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Malone, president at HRO and the Broker Collective. Excited about this one today. I know I say that a lot. This one's a little bit different. In a time where I think everybody's always interested in sales, right? Or what's working, who's still selling successfully, especially in times like these with inflation and a hard market. But so today's a little different. I've actually got a couple of the sales pros from the team here at HRO. And when I tell you, I think we're very qualified to have this conversation and hopefully deliver some value. I mean it. I think we've got about 50 years of collective experience here between myself, Thomas Westbrook, Michelle Webb, 50 years combined. I think high level consultative selling. So really excited to pick their brains and, just kind of share some of our own feedback and what's working really well for us. And also, we talk to brokers day in and day out. We're partnered with, over 70 of them. So we hear a lot about what's working well, what's not. But we've got Thomas and Michelle with us today. We'll let them give just a quick, 30-second intro. Thomas, kick us off.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Marcus. Very excited to be doing this. I've seen several of our podcasts and really stoked to be on this one. Just a quick 30 seconds. So I've been with HRO for over 2 years now. Been leading the charge with the Broker Collective. At this point, hundreds of calls with insurance brokers, both on the group medical and the commercial side. And to your point, I've got, close to 20 years of sales experience in a variety of different industries at a variety of different levels. And so really, really excited to just share that experience, both on the insurance side, but also on just sales 101 and some of the basics that work for us. So super excited to be here.
Appreciate it. Michelle, 30-second intro.
Howdy, my name's Michelle Webb, and I've been in the industry for a little over 20 years now. I've worked everywhere from big box companies to smaller companies, and have really enjoyed seeing all the different aspects between the PEOs, the ASOs, and what sets them apart. And working for the Broker Collective and HRO, to me, is where everything is at right now. And so I'm excited to see the direction that everything's going.
Yep. And so, our audience here, obviously insurance brokers, we know a thing or two about insurance. Earlier on at HRO, I was here in 2019 and had the chance to run our commercial agency for a couple of years before we sold that agency because we were sold out and committed to partnering with our insurance agency partners and wanted them to know and feel that. But very, I think all of us here have had a lot of experience, not just selling, our core business at HRO, which is HR and payroll solutions, but also selling insurance, whether that be health insurance or commercial as well. But yeah, I kind of want to kick it off with, I think really for me, where everything starts, right? And I get a lot of questions, from brokers as we're having conversations sometimes about just like, where are you guys finding leads? Where do you find leads? And I hear agents tell all types of stories about, purchasing leads or, cold calling or emailing or whatever they do, but where do you find the leads? Like, so I'm just kind of curious, to hear. And before I do want to get both of y'all's feedback on that, but for me, I will start it off like, because this is a big one for me. And I feel like this is where so many people fail or waste a lot of time before they figure it out, essentially. But as far as where are the leads and where to find those leads, really, I don't think you can really have a perfect or clear answer for that until you fully understand your value, right? What makes you different? Like, who are you best built to serve? And then understand, okay, like I'm best built to serve this particular audience. And so now, you can dial it into, okay, where do I go find and speak to this audience, right? But maybe Thomas, start us off with a little bit of your thoughts on finding leads in general. And what's been
it's interesting because pre-COVID, I'll say that word, pre-COVID, lead generation looked very different than post-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And you also had that in between time where almost the entire world went virtual. So you have this sort of new lead generation concept of kind of hybrid virtual / in person. And that's kind of where I live and I spend my time. I think one of the things that I've really picked up recently is a sales navigator in LinkedIn. It's not a new tool, but it's one that LinkedIn's really refined and worked hard to make competitive. They kind of go up against Zoom Info and a few of the others that are out there. But what I've been able to do is leverage my already robust LinkedIn network. And then of course I'm paying for this, but now it's pulling back the cover on all of the information, the emails, the phone numbers. I can put tags and track specific people and specific companies. So if somebody starts hiring for a director of HR, or if somebody is, hiring for, a new CFO or a new CEO, if there's some type of pretty significant change that's going to trigger kind of system-wide change or a system-wide demand, I get a notification right away. Same thing goes for, on the insurance front. If I see that, an insurance broker is expanding and adding agents, or if I see that they're opening up additional offices, it's going to notify me and tag me. So it's real time, letting me know that there are changes taking place. And that's a great time to reach out when a company is going through change. Because usually, especially when they're changing staff or employees or personnel, they're also looking at system changes. They're looking at process changes. And so if you can get in that initial conversation as they're making those personnel shifts, now you get that opportunity to be sort of that person's new guy or new girl, right? You get to be the new CFO's guy or girl for payroll, HR, or benefits. And so that's something that's really been helpful for me using Sales Navigator. And then the other piece too, I don't want to skip over, is in-person relationships and in-person conversations carry almost more weight than they did prior to COVID, because so many people are virtual. So many people are doing social media networking and advertising. And I mean, there's so much of that if you actually walk into a door, you go shake a hand, you make a phone call versus a text message. I mean, you're no longer bombarding them with the 500 other phone calls they get because nobody else is calling right now, and so that's the big thing that for me is go back to some of the old school best practices that used to work, because they work a lot more efficiently and effectively now, because you're one of the few people that's doing the in-person, the personal, the relationship-based lead generation approach.
Well, I
So
think this is an opportunity too, Thomas, to really just combine the old school and the new school. Right. I don't think it's fair to look at, and say, these things are outdated and, these strategies don't work anymore. Well, old school strategies, like you said, absolutely can still work, but so can some of the newer approaches and leveraging technology. But, it's a good point, being able to kind of bring some of those things together. And how can you maybe support those efforts, with the other, right? Support your efforts leveraging technology with in-person efforts as well, if possible, or certainly the in-person efforts being supported by other, supportive efforts on the back end that might be leveraging some of those social channels or technology channels.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, and I think to the Sales Navigator point, right? Like that's really strong technology, and it's evolving new technology. They're incorporating AI into it, right? Whereas I could, and we could very easily take those emails and that information and just plug it into an auto feed email simulator, and we can start kicking out emails. Yes, do we do emails? We certainly do, but leveraging that technology to then make the phone call, right? Leveraging that technology to go, oh, they're right down the road. Let me drive over there. So it's definitely best of both worlds, and really kind of mixing the old with the new.
Yeah, it's kind of mixing it with the new. And for me, like it's always been super important to me too. Just like you learn these things through failures, right? You make mistakes, you learn from them, you learn what works, what doesn't. But there's so many different approaches out there now, so many strategies, tools, technologies, lead gen, strategies or software is out there. I mean, I'll see or talk to agents sometimes and I'm like, you just need to slow down a little bit and like settle down and commit to something, because you see a lot of people make that mistake of they're trying to do 7 different things at once. And they're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they're not committed to any of it. And they're not doing any one thing really well. And something I think we've done really well here at HRO that's helped us, with the rapid and record growth that we've had, has been exactly that, like really paying it, like we test things, right? never shy about testing a new thing, but we pay close attention. We keep track of the analytics. We're looking at our KPIs. We're looking at our results, and we're really paying attention to what's working. Where are we getting the most results? And instead of trying to do 5 different things, like, okay, these 2 things are getting a better return, so let's double down over here, right? If something's working, let me put more effort, energy, and juice behind the thing that's working, right? And commit to it and stick with it for some time to really get a better sample size. And you can kind of just dial in and finagle and fine tune that strategy, over time. But curious, Michelle, if you have any feedback on, for yourself, it's in regards to finding leads.
Definitely. Along that same lines, like you were just talking about, knowing your industry, knowing who is going through open enrollments at that time, so you know who to reach out to. I love our marketing campaigns that we do where they're targeted. You're not just being broad to every person out there. Instead, you're being specific. I know this competitor is going through a renewal, so let me reach out to the people who I know who are utilizing them. So that way it's in their vision and I have a chance to go in there and have the opportunity to speak to them. So that's huge for me. I'm also big on any place, anytime as well. I always have HRO in my head. I am always, anytime I'm out, I get speaking with someone and it's just a part of my natural everyday. And it becomes fun to talk about it, whether I'm at a restaurant or wherever. I get talking to a business owner and have the opportunity to say, oh, well, what are you doing? And then next thing you know, I have an appointment. So that works really well. But another big thing that I have seen so many results from in a positive way is the marketing in general with the landing pages that we utilize with the brokers. And people don't always know everything that you are offering. So to have something on your website or to have a tagline that lets people know, hey, I do this, something that they might not know that you offer, I think is very important because it gives them a chance to ask you in case you haven't had that conversation with them. So we definitely see a lot of success with that, and it's a great thing.
Yeah, there's a
Well,
lot of go ahead, Thomas.
yeah, I just wanted to kind of, with what Michelle's saying, one thing that I've noticed that Michelle does a really great job in, is there's also a volume component to lead gen and outreach. And I've learned a few things from your, cadence and your outreach process, Michelle. Again, taking your 20+ years experience in this space where, there was a time where the only thing you could do is go into offices and make phone calls, right?
Right.
And your system and your process of tracking those touch points with your leads and how many times you've engaged and how many times you've reached out and the persistence there, that's a learned skill, right? There's art to it, but it's a learned skill. And I'll call it what it is. I'm 36 years old, and so I run into this challenge of, man, I want to make things happen fast and quick, right? I want to get the easiest, quickest lead, and I want to close it. And man, like let's win. I know I'm not the only one out there that's probably watching this. That's what they're looking for, the easiest, quickest way to get a deal. But I've learned, just over the last, several years and working with Marcus and also learning from you, Michelle, that the quickest deal isn't the best one.
Right.
And frankly, the best deal might take 5-6 touch points and phone calls and outreach and follow up. But when you get it, man, they're a client for life, right? So you've done a really good job with that. I've noticed it's something that you're really good at. And I think it's a key part to just lead gen and lead follow-up, period. You can get a lead, but if you don't follow up with it, you just lost some money.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because it's giving you a chance.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good. Go ahead.
Well, it's giving you a chance to really build those relationships as well. So I definitely believe in persistence and follow up, and timing is everything. Sometimes it is not the right time right then for a company to do business with you, but to continue to build those relationships, you never know down the road when the timing is good. And if you keep those relationships and build those relationships, then those are your lifetime. When they come over, they'll be lifetime clients.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no silver bullets, right? There's
Right.
so many different places where you can go and source leads, whether you're buying lists, creating your own, walking indoors, like we did for years before the pandemic. All these things, have, their own success rates. But for me, the one thing I've learned through our experience here at HRO and the growth that we've had is like the more specific you can be, the better, right? So the conversion rates go up tremendously when you have the right audience. So how do you find that right audience again? Like where do I fit the best? Like who do I fit the best? Like who can I impact the most that needs what I have? And then once I have a good understanding of that, then it's about kind of building out that buyer persona, understanding what are they interested in? Where do they hang out? What types of content do they engage with? How do they prefer to communicate? And that's going to dictate how I then go approach that particular audience. And again, you look at so many salespeople, and I've worked with hundreds over the years, and the vast majority are just throwing stuff at the wall, hoping something sticks, right? I mean, volume is a part of it, right? But when you can combine volume with a targeted approach,
Right.
you end up with a situation like what we've been blessed with here at HRO. I mean, you guys have been in it, right? The last 2, 3, 4 week period. I mean, we're targeting, ADP customers right now. We got a targeted list. We have very specific messaging to that list. We're emailing, we're reaching out. We've scheduled around 20 meetings in a very short time period, which is amazing. So, how many of you guys would like to schedule 20 new prospects in a couple of weeks? Hopefully some of
Yeah.
the things we're talking about here can help you do that. And I do kind of want to segue a little bit. We've already touched on some of these things with the conversation, but I kind of want to get into kind of the meat of really prospecting strategies, because I'm telling you, I talk to agents all the time, and there are some consistencies with the ones who are actually having success right now and the ones who are struggling. And some of that's tangible action steps, strategies that play. Some of it's attitude and mindset, right? There's a lot that goes into it. In the conversation today, honestly, we're going to scratch the surface of, sales, advice or stories. But, maybe Thomas, kick us off with a little bit of your thoughts around, what have been your most successful prospecting strategies, and maybe how has that changed since, like you said, the pandemic? It's definitely different, post pandemic, and it's different because we have a national reach, right? We're in 40 plus states, so it's a little different as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I go back, I'm going to kind of go back a long time. I used to do super grassroots focused marketing efforts where, passing out flyers and pamphlets. And I wore holes in my shoes from the amount of time I would walk in.
Like
And
best hot dogs in town stickers on the windshield.
I'm not joking. I used to stand in competitors' parking lots and pass out flyers.
Nice.
I learned how to run real fast. But that was purely a volume game, right? And that's all that was. And we just talked about that. But some of the best things just in general that I've learned, it really kind of hinges on relationships. It's relationship driven. And so regardless of what process or system, because everybody's wired differently. Like I love talking to people. So like the phone is my friend. I know some people that are terrified of the phone, but they're amazing copywriters and like they can craft an email that's incredible. And so, for me, it's everybody's process is slightly different, and what works for them. But when you get that lead, the thing that I've learned over 20 plus years is it's all relationship. Like I almost want to say, throw the word sales out of your dictionary, forget about the word sales, stop trying to sell stuff. And in your lead generation efforts, search for relationships. And that's been the best practice for me. Just search for relationships. And if you go on a relationship hunt to build relationships, to build pseudo friendships,
Right.
the business will follow. It's a kind of a page from Zig Ziglar, truthfully.
Yeah.
And so that the process of the lead gen, for me, emails, phone call have really been most effective, just period. That's before COVID, that's after COVID.
Yeah.
But it's when I've had the opportunity to focus on who they are, what their what is, what their why is. And like 80% of my initial contact is all about them. Like I focus purely on them and what's in it, versus very younger version of me would go into a sales process or relationship process and I would talk about myself for 80% of the time. all I would do is talk about me, and their eyes would glaze over and they would never call me back or never reach out to me again. So I think that
Good point.
at the core of it, that's what it is, right? It's, I go in, my goal is how can I get them talking 80% of the time? How can I get to the point where I know enough about them to where my follow-ups are not just business related. My follow-ups are, how's your family?
And
How are
the
the
answer is
kids?
simple, man. The answer is
Yeah,
simple. To getting them to talk 80% of the time, it all starts with you genuinely caring about what they care about, what they
bingo,
have to say. You can't go in
bingo.
there and manufacture these things, right? You see so many salespeople, especially greener salespeople. I mean, you're
Right.
trying to manufacture rapport, and you can't do it. You can't do it. You might feel like you're building rapport, but you're not. Your prospect can see through that. I mean, so it's really getting your place to, a point where you're sincere and you're genuine and you're deliverable, your deliverability and how you're communicating with your prospects, with your partners. You talk, it's kind of like when you think about relationships too, it's like, how do you merge we want to focus on relationships, and everybody knows, right? Relationships are powerful, but a lot of people get derailed or discouraged because takes a lot of time and a lot of effort sometimes to, go find relationships, cultivate them to the point where they're productive for both parties. And so it's, our approach here, obviously the thought process is we want to generate your leads while we sleep. We've done that. But it's all built on relationships. I mean, at HRO, 85% of our business is referred. It's through relationships. I mean, it's kind of, the dream situation. Everybody wants referrals. Well, our business is built on it. And it's about, how do you build relationships by the masses, right? And so to kind of give an example of that, I mean, I'll throw my 2 cents in for a second, but there's a lot, and we'll touch on some of these things as we're doing some of them, or have done, or our agency partners are. I mean, you've got referral channels, marketing, email campaigns, direct outreach, social channels. There's a lot of prospecting strategies that you can tap here. But nothing more powerful than referral networks. And I've been doing this for 17 years, and everywhere I've ever been, it's like, we want to generate referrals. We want to build referral partners, but nobody's ever really given the space to commit to that strategy and put in the level of effort that it takes to make it effective. And when I had the opportunity to lead HRO, it was just like the golden moment, and we've taken advantage of that. And we sat down and really identified, who are our best, who would our best partner be, right? Like, we're working with small businesses. Our newsflash, it's insurance brokers. That's why we have the broker collective in this podcast. But it's such a win-win. Our brokers need us as much as we need them, and vice versa. But we really understood that there's so much chemistry here with insurance brokers, right? We're both targeting the same prospects. We're both talking about similar things, right? We're talking about risk in the business, and compliance in some regard. And you guys, are competing against PEO companies and payroll companies that are bundling in HR and payroll with your, trying to take your insurance away from you. And so, long story short, we saw that, hey, there's tremendous synergy with insurance partners, insurance brokers, right? So in the beginning of the partnership program, we were partnering with VCs, law firms, having success, closing some deals, but it wasn't scalable. And here we want to create something that can double our business year over year, and be fun in the process, right? It's not a lot of fun to cold call for the rest of your career and to be beating the streets for 20 years. Nobody really wants to do that, although a lot of us fall into that by default. But if you understand who your audience is, right? Like, for us, insurance brokers is the partner. Then again, it's about understanding what they care about. Like, what's in it for me, for them, right? What am I going to give them that makes them really need what I have? And then really, where can I go speak to hundreds or thousands of them at once, to where you guys know we'll run campaigns and we'll have 30 insurance brokers reach out in a period of days wanting to talk to us about partnering with HRO and the broker collective to plug HR and payroll into their business, because they're looking for a way to stand out. They want to build sticky revenue. They want to add revenue to their current clients. So for me, I mean, there's no better and more powerful prospecting strategy and lead gen source than building referral networks. And that's something I'm passionate about and something we've, gone fully all in on here. You guys know, I mean, that's what we do. That's what we're committed to, our insurance brokers. But yeah, there's a lot of other ways to skin the cat, right? You can't, it's important to have, some other things at play, which we do, ours bigger success has been through email campaigns, which are very targeted and specific. But I'll let the pros here chip in too, because you guys are the ones on the day to day out there making it happen. So maybe Michelle, tell us a little bit. I mean, and so for context too, Michelle's got a ton of experience. She is newer here to HRO, but her and I have a history working together. She's been a phenomenal sales producer for years. So some of the new things we're rubbing off on her right now are new to her, but give us a little bit of feedback on, prospecting strategies that work the best for you.
It's funny because to both of your points, my talent always came from going and knocking on doors and walking into a place and I'd see something or notice something about someone and get into a conversation and I could talk all day. So I end up building these great relationships. But there comes a point where you say to yourself, I don't want to be 50 years old and still walking through the rain, knocking on doors. So I'd rather do it a different way. I would like to go and build relationships. I don't want to lose that piece of it because that's why I got into this industry, was because I love talking to people. I love helping people and I'm passionate about that. So how can I do that without having to wear myself down and constantly be just, hoping I get someone in a good mood that day that I can have a great conversation with to have the opportunity to build the relationship. So watching and kind of backtracking a little bit too, watching LinkedIn evolve. When I first got onto LinkedIn years and years back, LinkedIn was so serious and everyone was so stiff and putting on just their, my work stuff. This is what I do. And it was very, very tense. And now people are getting a lot more personal on LinkedIn as well. So it's not to the level that Facebook is, but you have some personal interaction. You've got people posting of their team and they're at a team building event, or they're posting about their family, or it's Easter and they're posting happy Easter. And so it gives you the opportunity to see the human side that we don't always get to see. And when you see those things, it gives me a chance then as I'm watching different brokers and gee, I'd connect really well with that person. That is someone who I would love to do business with. And it gives me a chance to build those relationships with those people. So that's been interesting to see for me. So
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting, that we have a beautiful thing available to us nowadays. It's called analytics. And not a lot of folks are paying enough attention to the analytics. And so you can save yourself a lot of time from trial and error just by paying attention to the analytics and other people's success. It's interesting that you mentioned that because we're in the process of making some shifts too. But, social is a great prospecting strategy, leveraging LinkedIn, other social channels. But, you can't make a post once a month or, here and there. You gotta, whatever you're doing, you gotta keep showing up. It's got to be consistent. And over time, you start to see that traction. But you're right, I think that you make a good point. Since the pandemic, pre-pandemic, everything was, mostly in person. And so you had a lot more human element,
right.
relationship, chemistry that has gone away in today's environment. And so when you look across social platforms like LinkedIn, which is business, but pay attention to the posts that get the most impressions and have the most engagement. They have a human element. Like I can go in there and post a picture and obviously you're not blowing LinkedIn up with a bunch of personal stuff. That's not what it's for, but I think it's nice to sprinkle that in and kind of mix in the human element with your business related posts because man, I mean, it's proof. I can go to my LinkedIn, make something that's personal and I get, 20, 30, likes and thousands of impressions. And then I can post something about this DOL rule change and like one person likes it. You know what I mean? You got 14 impressions.
Right.
The same information's all over the place out there, shared by tons of other people. Not that it's not important to share that too, right? It was part of social is like you really, you know, over time, like you can definitely start to create more conversions from social, but in the beginning, your brand, right? Your company, or you're an individual, you're building your brand. And so it's really important that even if you're walking indoors or you're cold calling, you're doing whatever, that if people Google you, they look you up, they find you on social, like they don't go to a dead LinkedIn page,
Right.
like, hey, I'm this technology guru or subject matter expert on insurance for law firms or trucking or whatever, and then your LinkedIn has nothing, right? It's nice if they show up to your pages and they come to life. They can get a feel for your personality, your humor, your subject matter expertise, and it just adds credibility. And so for me, there's tons of prospecting strategies and approaches, but being able to mesh a few of them together and really have them kind of supporting each other and collectively kind of boosting your credibility is really important. It's easy to say, well, hey, we do email campaigns with great success, right? But they're not, they're very specific, right? Like we build lists organically that are competitor lists. So I know that I'm targeting 5,000 ADP customers. I know ADP's challenges at the moment. I know why their customers are frustrated. It allows me to create very specific messaging. Like Thomas said earlier, I'm not going to go in there and talk about myself and all the wonderful things HRO can do. I could help them 100 different ways, but I know the three main frustrations they have with ADP. So I'm going to pick apart those three things in my 8 or 10 series email campaign to this specific audience with specific messaging. And it's a beautiful thing. It gets great results, but that's supported by, those people Google you, right? They're looking at your website. They're looking at your LinkedIn. They're looking at your social channels. And when they go to all these places, they're just continuing, just like when you're shopping online, right? You get Facebook ads and you click on a link for whatever, and you get retargeting ads, right? You get followed around by some of the same messaging, and then 2 weeks later you make a purchase, right? And so it's kind of like, it's just building up that reassurance in you. The more that, okay, like what they said in the email, this is great. Oh man, hey, I like what they're saying on social. Oh man, these guys are funny. Like this seemed like a good person. Oh, this, people I might want to work with. You see what I mean? It's
Well,
kind of building that credibility.
you're speaking of something that, kind of tie all this together, is, be set yourself apart and sort of be the expert where you're at, right? When somebody's thinking about insurance in your community, at your sphere of influence, are they thinking about you, or you're the person they think about? Because yes, you're on top of your multiple different marketing approaches, but again, you truly care. And like for us, for example, ideally, if a broker, right, if as a broker you're out there and you're like, how do I improve or expand my business? The very first thought we want you having is the broker collective,
Yeah.
HRO, and for us to be able to make that happen, and to kind of put a bow on this, is it really is in the circles that you operate, are you relevant and outreaching enough and available enough and answering your phone and responding to emails and commenting on social media posts, right? You're the go-to because you are setting yourself up for that, and
Every time
that's
you interact on social, it's a chance for you to reaffirm your expertise or your personality in some type of way. You're
Right.
you're just reaffirming the image that they've created about you for themselves or your business for themselves. So, it's just really important to have not just one thing. I mean, you can't just do emails. I mean, you can, but your results could be a lot better. And that's what a lot of this is, right? It's like you guys, everybody's prospecting, kicking up leads, probably having some success, maybe not what you want it to be. But again, what's working? What is getting a better result? Could you support those efforts better? If it's, could you include some marketing, into your efforts? I mean, something we like to do that has been successful in the past. I mean, again, the emails have been huge, but for example, if you're emailing a specific audience, right, the more specific, the better. If you're just generic, I've got a list of 1,000 random companies throwing stuff at the wall, you're going to have very low conversions. It is what it is. You're not speaking to anything specific. But if you can maybe target a specific audience, as the more granular, the better, then You can do a lot of cool things on the marketing front too. I mean, retargeting ads, sponsored messaging, display ad campaigns, those are all good examples where, you may email this list of 5,000 trucking companies, for example. I talked to, or it could be, doctor offices or whatever the industry or audience that you want to target. And then you could target those same people with an ad campaign on LinkedIn, if that's a place that your audience hangs out. So now they're getting your emails, but also they're seeing you pop up in their LinkedIn feed, or they're getting a message from you on LinkedIn, a sponsored message, right? There's so many different supporting efforts that you can do to boost what's already working. And so, sometimes it's not about, I'm doing an email campaign or whatever, and I'm just not getting, or we're cold calling, and we're not getting the results that we want. Our conversions are lower than we expect. But maybe it's not that you need to try 10 different things. Maybe it's just that you need to adjust your approach and support those efforts a little differently to enhance the results you're getting from those strategies. Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Marcus.
Yeah.
So as we talk about lead gen and the different processes, procedures, I mean, at the end of the day, we're still going to get no's, we're still going to get no responses, we're still going to get ghosted, like those types of things happen. And so one thing that, again, you've been doing this for a long time. Michelle, you've been doing this for a long time, and I'm newer in the payroll and HR space. How do you stay motivated through all this? Like, one, like what's your why behind this? Like, how do you pick yourself up each day amidst the no's, amidst the ghostings and the things that just come from a lead campaign? And like, how do you kind of persevere through all of that?
It's a good point, man. I mean, it's something that I worked really hard at, have for years. I mean, you know me personally, so a part of that is my faith and my background. But I believe that you got to speak life to yourself, right? Your thoughts, whatever you're thinking, whether they be positive or negative, are going to have an impact on how you feel and how you then react to situations and how you show up every day. So a part of it, honestly, is like training your brain, right? It's a battle in your mind. You're training your mind to choose to feel and think a certain way every day. And that's a part of it, right? So waking up every day, and no matter how I feel, like I know, like I'm going to bring my best self. I'm going to give it everything I got because that's who I am. And I know that feeling it or not, if I do that, the results ultimately will be positive. And the other part of it for me is just like, and if this isn't you, then maybe you're in the wrong field, right? It's like a look yourself in the mirror and have an honest conversation with yourself moment. But having a genuine desire and care to help people, right? When you genuinely care about people and you want to help people, and we talk about this collectively as a team at HRO, it's something I've said on team calls many times that I believe strongly in, is like always going into every interaction that you have with the intent of helping. How can I help the other person? How can I help the person on the other end of this interaction? So then you're not approaching everything as like all about self, right? So then you change things a little bit. So then you also don't feel so defeated sometimes. Like everybody's going to have a bad week. So you may go through a week and you scheduled one meeting or no meetings, right? You just had a terrible prospecting week. You hadn't closed anything in 2 months. But you can look back and say, you know what? I made a difference in this person's life. Like I made a difference in this conversation. Like I shared something or did something for this person that's really going to help that person be better. You can find joy and like kind of come back to a place of peace, knowing that, those are still wins, right? Those are positive things. But I'm telling you, a lot of it is just making the choice. Like, look, I'm not, when you have those negative thoughts that we all do, right? This is a tough week. Man, that deal should have closed. No reason it shouldn't have closed. Don't know why it didn't go through. They signed with a competitor or whatever. Like it's not personal, right? So number one, I mean, that's a big one. Don't take it personal. But really just, I mean, you just have to train your brain to be tough in those situations and realize like, look, if I keep doing my part and I keep working hard, like the result's going to be a good one. You can't get so fixated on things working out a certain way. This is something I had to learn very hard over the years. Like you get so locked in on this is my goal, this is my pipeline, like this is how it should fall. These dominoes should fall this particular way. I'm going to close these deals these months, and it's never going to, it rarely goes that way, right? So it's just kind of understanding, like, I'm committed. Look, I'm in this for the long haul. Maybe I had a crappy whole quarter or first half of the year. It's almost May. Maybe your year totally sucks so far. It doesn't matter. Like, put that in the past and realize that today is a new opportunity. Every day is a new opportunity to show up and go make something great happen. Like, there's no better time to change your situation and create a great outcome for yourself than right now. And so, I have these conversations with myself all the time. I sound like a crazy person, but I'm telling you, a lot of it is about keeping yourself pumped up and then surrounding yourself with a team with similar minds. And if you don't have a team, because a lot of our agents are independents, the beautiful thing about being partnered with someone like the Broker Collective, who we're so engaged with our clients. I mean, hey, we'll be there for you. We'll pump you up. We'll be that extension of your team. But I'm very curious to hear how you both handle the same challenge.
I love
Michelle?
that. Awesome. Okay, so I never look at a no as a brick wall. To me, no is no for now. And I have three things that tend to work in my favor when it comes to like personality traits and stuff like that is number one, I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. Timing, things happen for a reason. So, and then the second thing is I have a huge need for a human connection and like I mentioned before, those relationships. And so I'm very extroverted. And if I don't feel that peace inside me, like I get antsy. So I've got that going on for me. And then the third thing, I'm very competitive. I want to succeed. I love to be an example to my kids. So they, we talk about, hey, I had this great meeting today, or I had this happen. And, my kids will walk through the door and they're like, hey, mom, what'd you sell today? Or, hey, mom, who'd you connect with today? And so it's fun because then I watch my kids want to imitate that as well as they get bigger. So I combine those three things. And whenever I do get a no, my follow-up, I want to learn from why they said no. So I always follow up with, do you mind if I ask why you decided to go that direction instead of this direction? And that gives me a lot of insight. And then I go behind that and I say, well, when are you going to reevaluate this again? Or do you mind if I reach out to you again? And I put them on a list and I follow up because again, it's no for now. It doesn't mean it's dead. And I have so many people who I'd say clients, but I feel like a lot of them are friends and family because I do connect so deeply with those people. But they were people who told me no for years and years and years, and then just staying consistent. And when I call, not just calling because, hey, I want to know if I can have your business now, but hey, I remember you said your daughter was getting married. How's that going? Or I remember, you were having some struggles with your parents and moving them to a nursing home. How's that going? When you start with that piece of it, and genuinely, as Marcus mentioned, that's so important to genuinely
Dude,
care about people.
one of my most
Yeah.
successful agency partners who we've, share about 25, 30 clients with, they referred in the last couple of years. I mean, it blows me away watching these guys, like how they operate and the success that they have, but they're so positive. They're so, just consistent. And, one of the things they said that, it's just so true. And Michelle, I mean, you probably follow up as good or better than anybody I've ever worked around. It's one of the things that's really impressed me with you. But this particular group, their answer is like, look, we're always going to find a way to call you. Like, we're always going to find a reason to call you. We're always going to find a reason to call. So they are always following up. But, in terms of just attitude, I remember just a couple months back, Thomas, I remember you, this could be a whole podcast in itself, y'all. Like, that's such a loaded question, but I remember like a tough situation with a client. I mean, we all have those sometimes. I remember it was just kind of a tough day. And I remember, Thomas, you were feeling a little defeated after this particular situation. And I remember just saying, because I mean, it's something I've had to do myself over the years. I'm like, look, spend the day or take a day and just go out and visit your clients. Go see a few of your clients that are just happy. You're going to go out, you're going to have good conversations. They're going to receive you warmly. They're going to boost your spirits again because, they're going to tell you about all the great things that you're doing for them.
And that's kind of where my point and how I kind of do and operate, and I've been operating for years on this is, I have a 24-hour memory. In the world of sales, you kind of have to have a 24-hour memory. And I joke with sales teams I've managed in the past, and I still joke with myself where every day is a new day, as you've already alluded to, Mark. It's like every day is a new day, and there are, hundreds of thousands of businesses out there that need insurance, that need the services that we offer. And there are hundreds of thousands that are opening every year, right? And so if I'm stuck living in the past, focused on the no's of yesterday, the didn't gets, the negative remarks or feedback that I got, right, then I'm gonna miss the thousands of opportunities that are now blossoming today. And so if I carried in everything that happened yesterday, even the good things, for me, it goes with the good too. Like if I got a win yesterday, cool, that doesn't matter. That was yesterday. Like today's a new day. And so that's kind of how my brain functions. It's functioned for years because I come from a sales industry where like legitimately you have to hit sales every single day to hit your targets, hit your goals, hit your quotas. And so you couldn't focus on yesterday. Like today's a new day. And so that's what I call it. You have to have a 24-hour memory.
That's
so
good.
Like, go to bed, wake up, the good, bad, indifferent. Hey,
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Like today's a new day.
That's huge, man. I mean, I was saving that for the end, but you know what? It's so big. I mean, you have to find a way to show up every day and give your best. Give your best. Like, and look at yourself in the mirror right now and ask yourself, I mean, are you really giving it everything you've got right now? Because if you're not, there's no way you're going to see extraordinary success and growth if you're not giving it all you got. And so wherever you're at, you're blessed right now. Like you have an opportunity to start today, do some new things, take a new mindset and new approach and new attitude, and watch the results change drastically. And we're getting close to time. So there's one more thing I wanted to touch on a little bit because this is critical. I mean, really, it's just about, I mean, why you, especially in the insurance space, right? There's insurance agents on every corner, dude. They're all over the place. There's so many insurance companies. So why you? Why is the company going to choose to partner with your agency? And like, what are some things that you can do to stand out? And you both know, like you probably heard me talk about one of or all of these things at some point, maybe a lot because it's important. I do have a few notes because these are important if you don't take anything else away. But it's important to stand out. I mean, if you want to see exponential growth and unusual growth, you're going to have to do something different than the guy around the corner. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated. Like it really starts with yourself. I mean, if you've ever worked in a large sales organization or just have worked around large quantities of salespeople, I mean, you recognize the traits that stand out in the most successful. And then you look at the ones who struggle to succeed, or anybody who's tried to sell you before, right? Like so many of them are just inauthentic. They're not genuine. Like there's, people knock on your door trying to sell stuff and you're just like, dude, like this is painful. But to me, there's three things that are critical if you want to consistently succeed at a high level, and that's sincerity, problem solving, and bringing something different, right? Your biggest weapon personally is going to be your ability to just really genuinely care. Be sincere. Don't worry about having to be scripted or you don't have to say the perfect thing or the perfect sales pitch. You don't have to do that. Even on a cold call, you can differentiate yourself just by slow down, be your genuine self, really care about the person, listen to the person you're talking to. Just caring and being sincere, you're going to gain a tremendous level of trust that other salespeople just don't. And I've had this repeated to me or told to me many times over the years, and it's something that has just stood out as a difference maker. And then problem solving, right? Not going in there with a preloaded, kind of agenda, like I'm gonna sell them this, whatever, this package, this, insurance carrier, and have it kind of premeditated. But sitting down, I mean, I think about it like being a doctor, right? Like you're a doctor. Like your patient is the prospect. You got to diagnose the issue, right? So the better you can get at probing and asking questions that really dig deep and get to the root of what your prospect really cares about, what matters to them, what their problems are, or maybe problems they didn't even know they had. that you're able to expose this through deep conversation, that's going to set you apart dramatically. And then lastly, I just wanted to share, because this is big too. I mean, just bringing something different to the table, right? And I'm going to share the best example I have, and it is what we do here at the Broker Collective and HRO, partnering with insurance agents. I mean, we believe our insurance partners need us, right? Especially in this market when it's competitive out there. It's a hard market. You're getting big, nasty renewals staring you in the face. You're struggling to maybe make new sales. Like, what can you do that's different? And so these agencies partnering with us so that they can seamlessly and easily bring world-class payroll, HR, onboarding solutions to the table for their clients. They're not just the insurance guy, right? They are, and this is the case when I look across our most active and successful referring partners right now. They're problem solvers.
Yep.
They're not just the insurance guy, right? They're sitting down with their clients. They really build a relationship and understand their business, the problems they have that go beyond insurance, and they bring solutions like, hey, I noticed you guys, you made some comments about payroll, or you're frustrated with ADP or this or that. Like, hey, look, good news. We can help you with that too. Right. And so they're coming in, they're plugging in to these businesses and plugging solutions in that really drive growth and spark, faster growth and efficiency for their clients. It's not just, hey, you're covered on insurance, but also I'm going to give you something that's going to transform your business and help you grow dramatically better and faster. And, those things aren't so impacted by the ebbs and flows of like the insurance market, for example. So, but, you're coming in and you're bringing something different. You're a consultant, you're an advisor, you're a resource, bring something else that's going to truly make a difference. And side benefit, you're generating lifelong commissions that sometimes are more than the commission you're making on the insurance business.
Right.
And then we've had situations, recently where, we're talking about sales here today. I mean, commission's a big part of it. We've had, especially in this hard market where people are losing accounts, sometimes you just can't do anything about it. We've had brokers reach out saying, hey, we're losing the insurance on this client. The good news is they still got the HR and payroll plugged in. They're still making 5, 10, 15 plus grand a year in commission on a client that they lost. I mean, where else can you do that? I don't know. But the point is, being different, and just, I've rambled a bunch. You guys are passionate about this stuff, but curious to hear your take on just ways to really stand out and separate.
Yeah, I know we're running up on time, so I'll be kind of short with it, but it's kind of, to sum it all up, right? It goes back to the original root of what I think we kind of kicked this off with, is be yourself, be authentic, care about their business almost more than they care about their business. Because a lot of times as we go into a business, we have a different perspective, a different view, and most of the time the business owner you're talking to is stuck in the weeds. They're stuck in the business. They're not on top of their business, and if you go in and you acknowledge that, and you realize that, and you realize, hey, they don't have a lot of time, they're grinding away, and you come at it from I just want to help, and you mean it, like you really mean it, and you're willing to help to the point where you're maybe not the one doing business for them, you're connecting them to somebody else that might actually be able to do a better job.
Exactly.
Like, I promise you, they're going to remember that, because there'll be a time where you really can help them and benefit from it. And they will come back to you. Like, they will come back to you and they'll work with you, or they'll go ahead and jump from the jump. So like, that's, I think the biggest thing for me is, if you want to be different in this market, you want to be different in, 2024, which is, I mean, it's a crazy marketplace across the spectrum, whether you're in the insurance world or you're the insurance broker going to get business from a small business. It is a challenging time that we're in right now. And if you can really be authentic, show that you understand, show that you get it, give them patience, grace, and really help them, then, I mean, I can't tell you how many. So I just,
It's gonna be different than almost every other salesperson that sits down in front of them. One more thing in terms of being different too, because we do this internally, and I love this. I mean, it doesn't always have to be extravagant or overly complicated, but also pay attention to how people interact and prefer to engage with content nowadays, right? People love video. So one thing we started to do is leverage, and there's other platforms out there, but we use Loom, Loom, Loom. And we do a lot of video content, right? So we can make we'll video record a prospecting message, embed it into an email, right? Or drop it into a LinkedIn message or a LinkedIn post. And so then your prospect opens an email and they click play, and it's a lot more, you're not in person, but you kind of get that same feel. Like I get a feel for Thomas and his personality when he's sitting here talking to me in this, 1 minute prospecting, video. And so something I definitely embrace video. Not a lot are doing that as much as they should. And just little things like that will make you stand out and be different. Even in your follow-ups, right? Following up to prospects, following up to opportunities that are far into the sales process, right? I just sent you a proposal, and now I'll drop a quick, maybe 2-minute video too, just to kind of give you an overview of that, proposal, or maybe just kind of, appreciate the opportunity and ask for the business. But Michelle, what do you think?
I really like the word that Thomas used earlier, which was be available, and combining that with being a good listener. And I think that definitely differentiates you, whether it be someone who is looking to come onto your business or someone who is already on your business. A few examples I think of, I have someone from the ADP campaign, and she got hit with the flu and spring break, and she has kids, and she's running this business and she's trying to get all this information over to me. And as a mom, I can hear her stress in her voice and stuff like that as I'm having the conversations with her. I know that if she sends me certain reports from ADP, I can extract all that. I can put together everything I need. Instead of saying, here, you just leave it, I was able to say, hey, just send me this and I can take care of it for you. And being able to take that off of her plate, which a lot of other people out there aren't willing to do that extra work. So those kind of things. I also think about with Laura, and when we had the client who came on and the guy's father had died, and just the extra steps, and you could hear the gratefulness in his email to us of just how much it meant for someone to care and take those extra steps. And they knew that they were in good hands, that she genuinely was wanting to help and do anything extra that she could. And I think that sets us apart, because we have so many competitors out there, or so many brokerage firms that they're competing against other people who, once they get that business, they're done, they're gone, it goes on autopilot. And we don't let people go on autopilot. We keep those relationships up.
And I was talking to one of my agency partners the other day who does a lot of business with us, and they're having tremendous success. They've grown month over month for 24 months. And I mean, they do a phenomenal job with exactly that. There are technologies out there that you can plug in to put your follow-ups on autopilot, so nothing slips through the cracks. So you make sure that, your clients are always being followed up with. You always checking the temperature, checking the pulse, keeping the relationship going. But now this has been a great conversation, man. I mean, obviously, something I think we're all passionate about and have a ton of experience with. And just, I want to wrap it up, but just a couple things to sum up too that I think are super important to walk away with, if nothing else. And whatever you're doing, whatever your prospecting strategy, whatever it is that you're working on, consistency is absolutely key. You have to make a commitment to something. You can't. I had a guy the other day get an email conversation with me, and the dude was just complaining about literally everything. This doesn't work anymore. Email doesn't work. Mailing, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff doesn't work anymore. And I'm just like, man, you'll never be helped, right? Until you change your attitude and your mindset, you'll never be helped. Do you think everybody's just out there failing right now? Because they're not. A lot of us are still thriving, but it's a mindset thing. It's maybe this isn't working as good as it could, but can I double down and support this effort better somehow? Maybe can I take my generic messaging and make it more specific? But ultimately, whatever I'm doing, I'm showing up every day. It's consistency. I'm going to commit to something, and I'm going to do this for a time period, right? I'm not going to dip a toe and send out 30 emails and say, well, email campaigns didn't work. Dude, we're emailing 10, 15,000 people at a time, right? I mean, it's a volume game, but it's also consistency. And year over year, we're seeing great results from that. And then the other is just attitude and your approach, right? Just being able to win that battle in your mind, keeping yourself up here in a high place, because if you're not, everybody's going to feel that energy. It's going to impact your results. It's going to impact your ability to do the other thing that's critical, and that's show up every day with your best Thomas, with your best Michelle, with your best Marcus, like bringing your best efforts and energy every day. that's going to set you apart. It's going to be transformative in your results. But I thank you both. Again, man, a lot of wisdom here today from you guys, and we just scratched the surface, man. We could talk about this stuff, I feel like, for hours and hours. There's so much more to be shared, but really appreciate both of you today. Again, thanks for joining us on the Broker Collective podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Malone. Make sure you're keeping up with us. Make sure to follow us on social, check out the YouTube channel, check us out at brokercollective.xyz, but you can definitely find Broker Collective on pretty much all social platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, where we're most active, and we're dropping, live video content pretty regularly. All geared towards helping our agency partners succeed at higher levels. So everybody be blessed, and we'll look forward to catching you on the next episode.